Hello, threat modeling enthusiasts. My name is Stuart Wintertier. I am Director of Strategy and Solutions at ThreatModeler. And today I'm going to give you a brief tutorial of the newly released community version. This is basically an orientation. It's a vast overhaul from the community versions that have gone previously. This has been very much more open up for you. You can see in the URL here, I am in community.threatmodeler.net. You can go there and create a new account for yourself. And once you have done so, you can log in to the Threat Modeler Community Edition, and you will see what I see in front of me, which is the home screen. Now, you will be given one threat model that has a lifespan of 30 days. And the first thing that you'll wish to do is to create a threat model. And in this home screen, we may do so by clicking this new plus icon. The first thing we have to do is give our threat model a name, and I'm going to call this one community example. Now, we have to give our threat models a version number. That never sounds very interesting, but actually it's very important. Versioning is enabled inside this community edition, and ideally in the production world, when we put out a new version of our application or service, we should ideally put out a new version of our threat model as well, so that we're tracking alongside. The threat model is real to that is in production. That's the idea of that. And of course, it makes things a lot quicker because we want to be just threat modeling those new features and functions in the new sprint. That's the idea of it. I'll come back to that in a moment. This drop down covers a lot of different technology stacks just because ThreatModeler covers so many different technology types. This is really a filter mechanism for the toolbox. I suggest we just go for others and just see everything that's available to us. We don't have to trouble ourselves with labels, to be honest, in the community version. In terms of this drop down here from very high to very low, the underpinning question is the business criticality of the thing that we're threat modeling, and I'm just going to go with medium. And this box here, is this thing that I'm threat modeling, is it external facing, as in customer facing? If so, then leave it unchecked, which I will. Or is it internal in a secure environment? In that case, do check it. I'm just going to leave it unchecked. I'm going to say this is customer facing. There are several ways we can create a threat model. And the first way is empty, brand new from scratch. And I'm going to take that option. But just to make you aware, you can begin a threat model from a template. Think of a template in terms of those architectural patterns, those features and components in your architecture that tend to repeat over and over again. And identity platform is a great example. So we want to threat model that identity platform, but we only wish to do so once, and then we want it available to threat model from in the future. That's the heart of templating. And of course, if security wish to create templates to put in baselines of security for others to threat model from, that's also a great reason to use templating. We do not have the ability to create templates within the community version, but some have been put in place for us should we wish to do so. So we have something to start from. The final way we can begin a threat model is if you happen to have a Visio architectural diagram, or if you have created a threat model in the Microsoft Threat Modeling tool, it is possible to import those in here to get you off to the races quickly. Very simple. Select which one it is, browse on your computer and import it in, and off you go. I'm not going to cover that. I'll let you do that one on your own. Let's go to empty, as I said that I would do, and I'm going to press next. I'm not going to worry about threat model permissions. I'm the only one that has access to this threat model, much more pertinent, obviously, in a commercial environment, but I'm just simply going to create. We have a completely empty architectural diagram, and on the left-hand side, we have what we call the toolbox. Inside this toolbox is something in the region, I believe, of 1,000 components ready to go to get you off and threat modeling. And the idea is simply to find those things that you want to threat model. So let's say we're going to begin with the user, and we're going to give that user the capability to log in. Okay. Now, once we have these two here, if we wish to do so, we could click on an icon, and we could drag to another icon and let go, and that's going to give us our data flow. And if we click on that data flow and we right click, we can see lots and lots of other protocols that we could check for us to work from, to threat model from. I'm going to leave this as the default HTTPS because that's the version I know works within the community edition. If just to let you know, you saw me move this. Now, just as a little tip, when you want to move a component, just click on the name and hold down and drag it across. If you click on the icon, it's going to want to give you a data flow. Now, if I click on users as an example, and then come over to the right-hand side and open the general tab, you can see that users is highlighted. And what I really want to show you over here is the threats, because even at this stage, the underlying engine has begun to bring in those threats and security requirements underneath based on the decisions that we made in the diagram. Now, obviously, the security requirements are deemed to be those mitigations, those actions to take that will thwart those above threats. Now, before I continue, I'm going to bring in one other component, a web app, because I want to show you a slight difference with the web app. Now, when I highlight the web app, and we still have the general tab open, in the security requirements, you can see we have upgrade your edition to see the information for this component, okay? And it will be the same for the threats. So not every component in this toolbox has threat intelligence, and that is just a limitation of the community edition, just so that you're aware. But I'm about to flash up those components for you that do have that threat intelligence. So hopefully on your screen now, you can see the Amazon, AWS components, GCP components, and Azure components, and all the other common components that do have threat intelligence behind them. And of course, the idea, if you wish to bring one of these into your diagram, you can simply search for it within that toolbox and bring it over. Okay, I'll just go back here. Right, so let's just join this together. Why not? Okay, so just going to give this its own data flow, and I'll just move that backwards just to show you some more functionality. I'm just going to go back over to this general bar. Okay, and I wanted to show you that if we wish to indicate this as a high value target, I've clicked on the web application. If I want to indicate this as a high value target, I may do so here, or protected resource. Protected resource really means you have to have some kind of credentials to access it. But more importantly, there's a lot more going on in a web application or any component than just appears on the service. It can have a lot of features and functions and different data types that we may wish to add to it. And it's in this general section we can do that. If I click this add button here and select, for example, widgets, okay, and I show us what's available to us, I could say, for example, this has a chatbot or file upload capabilities, or it has an email, PDFs, whatever that feature or function is. And of course, any of those selections made, especially obviously in the commercial version, will affect that underlying threat model. But you know, just simply select whatever's relevant to you, file upload, and save, and it will be added here. Probably the most important one are the data alerts. What types of data are we dealing with? Of course, we are very, very interested if we are dealing with things like PII data and health data. Of course, same goes, select it and save it, and you'll see it put here, added here for you in this general tab. Now, threats and security requirements you've already seen. We have a timeline. It's just going to show us what we did in terms of this diagram and when we did it. Tasks is not really so relevant for the community edition. Tasks is rather like an onboard security architect. It guides the user by the hand when putting things together, like the cloud environments. It shows them the next step to take in order to keep what they're building secure. So it's a very, very powerful feature, but unfortunately not available for the community users. And finally, over here, versioning. So versioning is active. So if we decided that this was version 1, we knew we were going to go to production based on this model, then perhaps we would wish then to create the next version, perhaps version 2. As soon as we save, version 1 will go into stasis and will no longer be able to be changed or touched. A clone will be created, which will be version 2. And we would then, all future threat modeling would begin from version 2, and so on and so on. So we do have version. I'm not going to use it here, but if you save, you'll see how that works. And it just means that we can look back in time over this diagram and see how things changed, features and functions and what have you. So it's very, very handy functionality. Okay, I'm going to close that. If I wanted to say, for example, that this web application was contained within something, so embedded within something, we can use what's called the grouping functionality. This is very, very important. So if I press group and then I right click in the white space and say, I want to say this web application is contained within something, I'll press that. What I can do is I could say, for example, this web app is contained within an EC2. Okay, and save. Now, this EC2 is going to have threats of its own. Now I brought that in. Yes, there is a threat intelligence to the AWS EC2. So now we can see the web application is inside that AWS EC2. And if we wish to do so, if it was relevant to do so, we could bring over a database and we could pop that inside that EC2. It's absolutely fine. By the way, this is not a lesson in threat modeling. This is not an expansive threat model, but I just really want to communicate how to use the tool more than anything. And let's have our users do something, give us some money. So I'm going to have a checkout, and I'm going to have a data flow between them. And the reason I'm giving myself a checkout is because I want to show that if I wanted to put this checkout into a different trust zone, I can use that same grouping functionality, and then I can right click in that white space and I can say, I want this checkout to be in a different trust boundary. In the commercial version, we can give any of our own trust boundaries and what have you, but we are defined by what's available to us. So I'm going to say an Azure subnet and save. But if I didn't want that to say Azure subnet, I can simply double click it and perhaps rename it to DMZ or something like that. So we do have that flexibility to be able to change names and what have you, should you wish to do so. Okay, I'm just going to show you the filtering. So we can, I'll just get rid of that in the toolbox. We can filter this toolbox should we wish to do so. And just so you know it's available, we can filter according to libraries and also component types. And just to let you know that in the commercial version, whenever a threat model is complete, it will be found inside the toolbox in its own right as a threat model component. Now, we have none of those, but what it means is that we can do what we call threat model chaining, and that is bring entire threat models into our threat model and chain them together. But that's not available for us, but I do want you to know that capability exists in the commercial version. Now, all of the components within this toolbox, even though we give over 1,000 of them out of the box in a commercial version, always we're going to be told you don't have our specific special component. And of course, in the commercial version, the users of the platform have all of the editability and customization at their fingertips. They can bring in different components, different threats, different rules, different anything you can create in that threat framework. Unfortunately, that threat framework is not available to us in this version, in the community version, but there's a lot here for us to work from. So I don't think we should be suffering too much. But I do want you to know that in the community version, you have full control over what appears in this toolbox. Okay. These three dots here, all of this work, we can export the image, export the JSON, we could deal with comments and full screen. I know that all of this works, all of this functionality. I noticed the workflow is missing, and of course it wouldn't make sense to have workflow for me to submit this to approval to someone because I'm the only user of this particular threat model. So that's available in the community edition that's not here. Okay, let's say that we are very, very happy with this particular architectural diagram or whatever we want to call it. What do we do? What's the output of something like this? And that can really be seen in the overview screen. I'm going to go over to it now. Now, in this overview screen, really and truthfully, we're only going to concentrate on threats and security requirements. All the rest of this is not really relevant for the community version. Okay, this is really more for the commercial, but we definitely want to see threats and security requirements. So first up are threats. Now threats are broken down as per the components and that we that we brought over into that diagram. So if I open the AWS EC2 as a prime example, we can see the layout of those threats. If I highlight one, we get a good description of it over here. Now we can change these statuses manually up here. We could change these to closed, mitigated, same as we can change the risk as well. So we could change these from very high to medium, whatever we want to do. We can export them all in Excel, and this is a total count of the threats affecting this. Okay, and as I say, they're broken down into their component types. Now, underneath this are the security requirements. So the mitigations, the controls to thwart the above threats, again, broken down into specific components. And if I open up the AWS EC2 and highlight the first security requirement, you can see in the right-hand side in the description, the steps to take in order to thwart that particular threat. Again, we can change the status here to closed. If we knew this had been put in place, or perhaps we put it in place ourselves, we could change that. Again, we can export this in Excel spreadsheet, give it to engineers for them to work on. Total count of security requirements and, broken down as per the components as well, as you can see. Now, this is quite limited. We can work on this in a very manual way. Obviously, we would be looking to automation in the commercial version. A prime example would be we would integrate this with an issue tracker, and we would have these security requirements pushed out to the issue tracker for engineers to work on to implement these security requirements whilst building out the application or service rather than retrofitting at the end. And of course, that's the glory of threat modeling, isn't it? Is to get that security into the design and build phase. Make sure it's there, get rid of that low-hanging fruit, and ensure that this is all done for us before we get to that end and that traditional testing phase. We want all of that low-hanging fruit to already be dealt with for us. So as those tickets would be coming in, we'd see those statuses flipping from open to closed. But it's okay to deal with it in a manual way here. It gives us a good feel of how the tool works and how automated threat modeling in general should work. So coming down, we can see some of what would have been available to us that's just not available to us, and that's fine. Integrations is where we have all of those third-party integrations, like with the issue trackers. But it's worth saying that there is a very, very, very expansive API on the back of ThreatModeler in the commercial version. The ethos of the tool is to set the data free. We're not interested in trapping your data inside ThreatModeler. We want you to get it out, get it plugged into those third-party tools upstream and downstream, and make use of it and make it part of the automated pipeline. That's if you ever want to talk about that, obviously you know what to do, you know the drill. Come and speak to us here at ThreatModeler. Okay, let's say we've dealt with what we want to do in this overview screen. Then, of course, we'll move to reporting. We're going to get a developer report by default, which is, again, based primarily on those threats and security requirements. I'll leave you to look through the details of these things. But if you go to the filter button, there is a lot more available to you. For example, you could have a look at the executive report. Okay, very interestingly, you could look at the compliance summary report for this threat model. Okay, not a lot going on simply because I didn't do any work within that overview screen. But if you want to drill down on specific compliance frameworks, feel free to do so. If I want to see just NIST 853 Rev 4, I can do that, and then I can filter and I can see that. Okay, so it's very, very good. And this is all available for you to have a look at and investigate. And of course, you can export these things by PDF, which is excellent. Just going back to the developer report, just so that we can have a look here. As you can see, most of these filters are not on. Just to give you an idea, if I wanted to see the threat model diagram within this particular report, then click what it is you wish to see, and then make sure you click filter, and you're going to see your diagram appear here once it's generated. So that's the trick. If you want to see certain types of threats, you want to drill down very into granular detail, threats by status, whatever it is, and then hit that filter button, and that's going to change the reporting for you. Now, remember, those reports, this reporting that we're looking at here is on the per threat model level. In the commercial version, we would then hop over, and perhaps we'd want to see compliance on across our estate, across all of our threat models. We're only ever going to see the one threat model, but just so that you can see how this works, you can see the compliance frameworks. Perhaps we can open up NIST 853, see if we can find something that's applicable. Okay, security engineering principles. We can click that. It will take us down to all of the threat models that have that within them, give us very, very granular detail. So I'm showing you this just so you can explore it, not because you can particularly do anything, because we've only got the one threat model. And of course, this is designed to look across a massive estate of threat models, but I want you to be aware of what this is doing here. Same with the threat dashboard. If I click that, this is designed to give us an overview across our estate again. We're not going to see threat trends because we have one threat model, and that's all we have. So, and threat status, top 10 threats, threats by risk, all interactive. You can click around, have a good play, get a good feel for the platform. It's been opened up so you can really, really get to grips with, what is undeniably the number one automated threat modeling solution out there. Get a feel for how it should really be done, and really enjoy it as well, and have a look at some of the feedback. I don't think there's anything else I really need to cover. I've covered now all of this under here: customization, third-party authorization, enterprise management, template builder, threat framework, not available. Click into those, it's going to simply tell you that. In the commercial version for the cloud, those that have the cloud capabilities, you've probably seen we have superb automated cloud functionality, where we can automatically threat model cloud environments. That would appear in here, and that's not here obviously as well, not available in the community edition, but there is a lot available. I wanted to give you this opportunity to orient yourself. Again, when you want to go back, right back to the beginning, hit that home button. You will now see your threat model, double click, and you're straight back to that diagram, and we can begin making changes again, going into the overview screen, going to reporting, and going through that process. Always remember, if you want a granular detail, highlight the checkout, get that general tab open, go down, have a look at, see if threats and security requirements are available to you, and so forth and so on. So really hope you enjoy this. The engineers have done, in my opinion, a great job of really opening this up as much as they can, without giving everything away. And I hope that you enjoy it and that you found this video useful. So any questions, if you wish to see the commercial version or anything like that, you know the drill. ThreatModeler.com, just hit us up and ask us what you need. Simple as that. Look forward to hearing from you. Bye.